The Vegas Golden Knights pulled off a last-second miracle. The Toronto Maple Leafs have seen their 2-0 series lead slip away, and the Carolina Hurricanes have found a way, at least for now, to shut down Alexander Ovechkin. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It's great to welcome back the co-host of Locked On VGK, Chris Gawlik. And Chris, it couldn't get too much more dramatic than Saturday's win against the Edmonton Oilers.
Dramatic's a word. There's a lot of words to use. Dramatic will work, though. Talking to my son about it, his words are he experienced emotions he's never felt watching hockey games before. I thought that was kind of a cool way to put it because if the Golden Knights go down 3-0, this thing is toast. Let's be honest with ourselves here. And the game was trending the wrong way, of course, after that lucky goal. I mean, McDavid put the puck in the right place. Good on him to do so. Oilers get a lucky goal to tie the game, and you're like, oh, man, what do we got to do? And then Riley Smith gets literally the same goal with, it says 0.4 seconds left right there. It's 0.4 seconds. That's how much time was left. And, yeah, I mean, you know what it reminded me of? Grew up a Chicago Blackhawks fan. This was the same feeling almost when the Blackhawks won against the Philadelphia Flyers in overtime. Patrick Kane was the only one in the world that knew that puck went in.
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of weird feeling like, what? Okay, wait, we won, we didn't win. Well, what's going on here? And wow.
What does this do emotionally for Vegas and for Edmonton in this series?
I mean, Coach Cassidy is big on saying momentum does not carry game to game. I think he's full of a word I probably shouldn't say right now when he says that, because the Golden Knights do have all the momentum in the world. They slayed the Dragon for a game. This series is one goal away from being a 2-1 Golden Knights lead. Thursday's game goes to overtime. That game plays out how it did. And now all of a sudden you're looking at how close the Golden Knights were to being up in this series. Now you're looking at, well, if this might have gone right in game one, all of a sudden the Golden Knights are up 3-0. I mean, this is why a 7-game series is just the perfect playoff system in all of sports, because you're never really out of it. A team never really is safe either with the lead. And obviously it goes to one of the teams gets 4 games, and every game matters and they get exponentially more importance. Same question for Edmonton. Was it due to their momentum? I don't know. I mean, I think McDavid has dealt with all sorts of emotions as an NHL elite superstar. And he went through the Game 7 heartbreaking Stanley Cup final loss, but then he gets the overtime winner in the Four Nations. So I think McDavid is kind of built for this. I do love Coach Knobloch of the Oilers, the way he kind of takes on his attitude on the bench. He wants to be a calming influence. You don't see him get too high or too low. He doesn't bark at the refs too hard. He's not like Coach Cassidy, who's out there saying all sorts of things to the refs and the players behind the bench. So be curious to see what the Oilers' adjustments are in the locker room and, of course, on the ice coming back for Game 4 on Monday night.
Talk to me about the injury situation right now. Vegas loses its captain in the first period, but that's certainly not the only injury this team is dealing with right now. Do you have any updates?
Yeah, so Braden McNabb, good God, we thought he was done for at least a game or two, if not the series or even the season. Terrible no call, but that's the call's behind us. Who cares about that at this point? But rough situation. He goes into the boards, doesn't look good coming up, does not even participate in the day of game skate before the game. So that's when, okay, McNabb's out, great, okay. And, you look at the lines and everything, and then all of a sudden, Braden McNabb is out there for warm-ups. Okay, fine. Maybe he just got, let's see if he actually takes the line rushes. Dude takes the line rushes. He's a Warrior, so it seems like he dodged a major injury, but I can't say he's 100%. Alex Pietrangelo missed a game due to illness already in the series and has not looked like himself for a while. Pavel Dorofeev was injured for a few games of the Wild series in the first 2 games of this series. He was, I think, ineffective in this game. We'll be polite. And, of course, Mark Stone is the most important one of all. Well, Braden McNabb is important, but Mark Stone is the key takeaway from injuries in this game. Unknown if it's a head injury, concussion, or if there was a possible laceration involved, because it looked like Corey Perry's skate kind of goes into his arm. But reading between the lines what Coach Cassidy said, he mentioned how Stone is feeling, how he was feeling after the game. That just, I don't know, that doesn't feel like someone that just got a few stitches in their arm and they're going to be good to go. So my guess is concussion, go through the protocol. Chance to play on Monday is what Coach Cassidy stated.
How big would his absence be for this team?
I mean, a lot of people are going to say, well, the Golden Knights won without him, so they can do it again. And okay, fine. If you would have asked me the question before the series started, let's just go all the way to the worst case scenario. If Mark Stone is going to miss the final 4.5 games of the series, would the Golden Knights advance? And I would say no. I would say not a chance. I mean, it's like it's not like losing McDavid, but it's like losing, a very important player. It's like losing Matt Barzal. There you go. He's got to bring an Islanders reference to the table with you. It's like losing a very important player. And Mark Stone's the captain. He's the emotional leader on the ice, off the ice, in the locker room. I can spend the entire 9.5 minutes talking about why Stone is important to this team. Well, the Golden Knights are in the fight now. We saw Riley Smith step up. William Karlsson had a magnificent game against the Oilers. Jack Eichel is still out there getting apples and playing a good defensive game. Tanner Pearson is finding ways. So can the Golden Knights dig deep enough to get by without Mark Stone? It's probably a coin flip, and maybe this is more of a fan response, but I think they probably can. But it's going to be incredibly difficult if Stone misses the entire rest of the series.
Are you surprised, for example, in this last game, the limited number of shots on goal that both teams had in the game?
I mean, the Golden Knights are built defensively. Coming into the season, in the last couple of seasons, this elite defensive core is what we've seen on display. It hasn't been elite this year. Has not been elite. The penalty kill has been very questionable. There's been some injuries, and starting with Pietrangelo, the anchor of the defense. He missed the 4 Nations. His choice to deal with an ailing injury. It's still ailing, folks. Let's call it what it is. Noah Hanfin stepped up big last night. Someone pointed out that Zach Whitecloud and Nicholas Watt each have 3 penalties in this series. Kind of uncharacteristic for both those players, of course. Nick Watt, very uncharacteristic when he decided to cross-check someone in the face. I don't know what he was thinking. Well, he was trying to play the puck. I don't know about that. Whatever. But as far as the shots on goal and the opportunities and everything, defensively, this is what the Golden Knights are built for. And Coach Cassidy made a great move in the first round, putting Eichel and William Karlsson on the same line to slow down Boldy and Kaprizov. It helped a little bit, not a lot. Coach Cassidy tried the same thing against the Oilers in the first 2 games, and the Golden Knights lost those games. So now we have a separation from Karlsson and Eichel, and all of a sudden they're finding ways to a couple different lines Coach Knobloch has to deal with to try and keep McDavid away from Karlsson and Eichel. And, right now, Coach Cassidy is winning the coaching battle, but the game within the game, we'll see how it plays out for the next few games here.
What are the keys for Vegas to win this series?
Adin Hill. I'm going to start with Adin Hill. He made the one more save. We hear coaches reference this so often. One more save. We wish we'd had one more save. The other goalie did. Our goalie did. Well, Adin Hill did make that save against McDavid with about 3.5 minutes left, and Hill was big elsewhere in the game as well. So we'll certainly start with Adin Hill. I think the resurgence of a misfit line in William Karlsson and Riley Smith, their continued success is the most important. And lastly, limiting, again, it's almost impossible, but limiting the damage that McDavid and Draisaitl can do. If you can hold that line to 1 or 2 goals, one way or the other. Now we're playing depth versus depth, and that was the Golden Knights' depth was pretty good last night against the Edmonton Oilers.
All right, Chris, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you and your co-host on social media?
Yep, we are Locked On VGK. We record 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, YouTube, and anywhere you catch your podcast. We do have the Chris and Chris show every Saturday. That's me and my son doing a YouTube-only exclusive show. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you check us out. And also a huge shout out to all the Oilers fans who have been interacting with the podcast. We do appreciate all the visiting fans, and nothing but love to all the Golden Knight fans and all the Oilers fans checking us out right now.
All right, Chris, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Leafs, David Morassutti. And David, a rough couple of games for the Leafs down in South Florida. And it just seemed to me in Game 4 that the chances that they had were pretty much stifled for most of this game.
Yeah, it was one of those where it felt like the Leafs there was a lot of perimeter play, and it just the first period the Panthers grabbed so much momentum. They established their game early, and the Leafs were playing catch up. Like, take 4 penalties in the period, and you look at the penalties that were called. It's mainly because the Leafs were, in bad positions, and made some dumb decisions. But the Panthers came out with more urgency, and the Leafs were a step behind in a lot of ways. And that to me has kind of been the story of this series, is that, when the Panthers have upped the physical play, the Leafs have kind of struggled. And, that's something that can't happen. That can't happen going forward. I thought in the first couple of games of the series, what gave Toronto kind of, what made them look more impressive is that they weren't backing down from the physical play from the Panthers. But now that the Panthers have kind of thrown their body around a little bit, we haven't seen that response from the Leafs. And to me, that I don't think the Leafs are. I think a lot of it has to do with the Panthers have realized that they need to up their game more after going down 2-0. And I don't think the Leafs have essentially kind of relaxed a bit. I just think that one team's up their intensity and the other team hasn't totally matched it.
Is there a line matchup that was different with home ice advantage for the Panthers in games 3 and 4?
I don't think so. I know a lot of people are trying to say now you can get Barkov playing with Matthews more, and that kind of limits. I don't think it's the matchups per se. I just think it's the mentality of the top guys on the Leafs and where they want to shoot the puck, right? If you look at the heat map from this game, the Panthers' goal, the goals they scored, both of them in front of the net. The Leafs, especially at 5-on-5, they struggled to get to that area. The Panthers had more high danger chances, especially at 5-on-5. They own I know some people feel a certain way about the expected goals and stuff, but the balances and whatever certainly looked like they went in Florida's favor, but it's because they earned those chances. Top guys, I don't think they really earned their opportunities, and when they did, it was either too late in the game or it was on the power play, which, yeah, you can get great looks on the power play, but you got to convert. Like, the Leafs got three power plays just in the second period alone. You got to bury those, especially when it's a 1-goal game and you're fighting, and any break can change can swing the game one way. And that was kind of my thought process, is that all it takes is one of your core guys, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares. If one of those guys can score at any point of the game, it swings the momentum, and then Florida's maybe going a little more like, oh, maybe we're making it a little too easy on these guys. But, tonight, Mitch Marner, 0 shots on goal. You're not winning many games when your top players aren't getting pucks on net. And that, to me, that's kind of one of the stories of this game.
Talk to me about the goaltending situation. Any chance that Stolarz returns, and how important is it for the Leafs to get better goaltending?
I think the only way we can sort of think that Stolarz gets back in this series is if we see him on the ice. He hasn't been on the ice since he was taken out early in the series. And they did say he was progressing well. We don't know exactly what he is dealing with, if he's in any sort of concussion protocol or if there's another issue. There's playoffs time. You're not getting divulged a lot of information here. But I thought in game 3, Joseph Woll wasn't at his best, but neither was Sergei Bobrovsky. I kind of felt like it was a toss-up with the goaltenders. But game 4, Joseph Woll put up the type of performance that gave his team every chance, and the Leafs did not capitalize. And so I think for game 5, the thing is if Stolarz is skating and feels good, they probably might go back to him. But if he's not close, or if there's any question marks, I thought Joseph Woll's play in game 4 suggests to me he can handle taking the net. Because initially goaltending was talked about so much, I don't think right now it's the should be considered the biggest concern for this Leafs team.
You talk about the big 4 and their lack of scoring, or their lack of scoring chances even on Sunday. Give me a player on this Leafs team who is not one of the big 4, who you feel just needs to step up his game for this team to jumpstart in game 5.
Yeah, I think if I'm the Leafs, Scott Laughton's one guy. He was the big addition at the trade deadline, and he's the 4th line center right now. I kind of feel like this is the moment here where you need a Scott Laughton to step up. Now, I'm not asking him to go out and score a bunch of goals. Bring a little more of the physicality, kind of help your team win a bit more of the matchups. There was one point in the game where it looked like he was going to go and take a big rush with the puck, had a good head of steam on him, and it just kind of got knocked off his stick. He's got to find a way to be a little more impactful. I understand 4th line, you're not going to really be able to do that so much. Maybe it's an opportunity here for Kraber to say, look, maybe we got to move some guys around and help shake things up a bit, because you don't want to overreact over one game. I get it, but there were some trends throughout this series that would suggest that some things maybe needed a little bit of a shakeup, but the coach didn't want to fiddle too much with a winning lineup.
As far as the physicality, and this has been a very physical series, yeah. Do you think the physicality favors the Panthers, or do the Leafs have what it takes in this lineup to go toe-to-toe with Florida and emerge victorious?
Well, I mean, I think any chance for physicality will favor Florida, in my opinion, just because that's the brand they're built off of. Yes, the Leafs have shown that they can handle being a more physical team. I just kind of feel like with the Leafs here, you don't necessarily need to match them toe-to-toe for every hit. But if you are going to land a hit, you got to make it count. I feel like that's probably an area there. Like I'm looking at who the Leafs are targeting. The 2 guys that had the most hits against them in this game were Reinhart, Lundell, and Jones. We know Seth Jones is an important blue liner for the team. Reinhart, a premier goal scorer. But they got to find a way to get to Barkov, get to Bennett, get to Marchand, get to Tkachuk, get to those guys a bit more. I feel like they're not picking on those guys. Like game 1, they went right after Barkov. That was apparent, and it took a bit of a bite out of them. They got to get back to doing that. They got to get back to going after the guys who are going to have more of an impact on the game. Yes, Reinhart will have an impact on the game. That's certain. But they got to go after the other guys who are kind of winning those other matchups.
Give me one more key for the rest of this series. Best 2 out of 3, 2 of the 3 games potentially in Toronto. What do the Leafs have to do to win it?
Make life tougher for Sergei Bobrovsky. First 2 games, I felt they did that. They were more aggressive towards him, threw a lot of shots on net, a lot of opportunities. They didn't do that as much in the last 2 games. I felt it was a bit easier. I would say game 3 they did. Game 3 was winnable because Bobrovsky wasn't at his best. Game 4, that felt like an easier night for Bobrovsky. That's not going to work out if you're thinking you're going to want to pull away in this series. You have to make life tougher for him.
All right, David, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you and your co-host on social media?
Yeah, you can go and follow and subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and also on Instagram at Locked On Leafs. That's where we're gonna have a lot of extra content. We'll have that over the next couple of days with the series now shifting back to Toronto. And you can follow us on X at Locked On Leafs, myself at _Morassutti, and my co-host Mike at Mickey_Canuck.
All right, David, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Gil.
It is great to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Hurricanes, Zach Martin. And Zach, you've got to be pleased with the 2-1 lead that the Canes have after 3 games of this series.
Yeah, no, definitely feeling really good. And as always, Gil, thank you for the invite. I always love coming on and talk hockey with you. But yeah, no, what a way to kind of put yourself into a good series lead, shut them out. The Capitals 4-0 in game 3. Frederik Andersen made 21 saves. Absolutely otherworldly playoff run right now that he's got going on in his 7 starts. It's just absolutely crazy how great he's been playing for the Canes. But yeah, you're up 2-1. You got game 4 on Monday night. If you take care of business in that one, now you got a 3-1 stranglehold on the best Eastern Conference team going back to Washington. But yeah, right now, setting themselves up pretty good. And just, you got to love the fact that it was just a complete team effort. Special teams was absolutely insane. 2 for 2 on both sides. And just, depth was a very big thing for the Canes in that game. So overall, just a great team win to take this series lead.
Talk to me about the goaltending. You mentioned the shutout, Andersen playing very, very well. What has he done to rise to the occasion here in the playoffs so far this year?
I mean, it's just kind of the way he just has been for the Canes. I know last postseason maybe wasn't the greatest for him or the team, especially in round 2. Had, above a 2 average, a little bit closer towards 3 rather than the bottom 2. Save percentage was under 9. But if you look back at how he was 2 seasons ago, sub 2, over a 930 save percentage. But now you look at this one, he's got a 132 goals against, a 940 save percentage. And he's 5-2. Like, the only save percentage that's better than this one right now was back in 2016 when he was with the Ducks, where it was a 947, and he's now at a 940. And this goals against, Gil, 132, his absolute best. Like, he has been on an absolute run outside of, he's given up 3 goals back in the first round and 2 goals in game 2 that they lost in Washington. Those are the most. Every other game, 1s. And then, of course, this one was just a shutout. So, for the most part, he's just on an absolute run that goes to show why he got that 1-year contract extension for $2.7 million. And that's not even including the $750,000 bonuses that could be into the contract next year. So, that's maybe a tad over 3 with the bonuses. So, yeah, he has been the calm, cool, collected Frederik Andersen that the Hurricanes fans mostly know of how he has been. And I think for the fact that all the, hoopla or the, backlash of, he isn't shining under the bright lights. I mean, he's shining pretty bright right now. Like I said, even 2 playoffs ago, he took the Hurricanes to an Eastern Conference final where they lost every game against Florida by 1 goal. It's just Frederik Andersen has been absolutely dialed in this playoff run.
How much pressure is there on this team? They've done so well in the regular season for so long, but the playoffs, they've always sort of found a way to come up short. How is this team reacting to that pressure right now?
Well, I think that the funny part with the pressure is the fact that a lot of people thought this was going to be a transition year for the Kings. They lost 6 guys in this previous offseason. There were some people making hot takes of, hey, they might even make the whole playoffs in general. And they went and were the second best team in the Metro. They were, poised to be the second, seed in the entire East. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Of course, pressing guys, it just is what it is. But this is the healthiest team the Hurricanes have had coming into the playoffs. Last year, you lose Jesper Foch, you lose Brett Pesce early against the Islanders. Seth Jarvis gets hurt. Then you look at 2 postseasons ago, you lose Andrei Svechnikov like a week after the trade deadline. So it's just, those are the unfortunate things, but the Hurricanes are the healthiest they've been. They can run with strategy now, just having guys like Tyson Jost and Mark Jankowski, as healthy extras, or Riley Stillman and stuff like that. And I think the pressure is definitely on the Canes to perform well, but it's also like, well, the Hurricanes, from a lot of people, thought, hey, maybe wild card could be the best of the outcome that they have. So they're kind of playing with house money right now. So I think that whatever you're going to get is really going to be beneficial. I think the depth that they have right now definitely helps them proceed this run a lot longer than what some people maybe thought of. So, I mean, we got a lot of series to go, but I think the pressure it's different on who you ask. But for me, there's some, but not to like, oh, let's just blow it up, or maybe it's the coach. It's not that serious.
Alexander Ovechkin has been held completely scoreless throughout the first 3 games of this series. What have the Hurricanes done besides the goaltending to limit his effectiveness?
I think just playing some great all-around team defense and just kind of being able to put themselves into a spot where Ovechkin can be in his office and do his thing. The thing is, the Hurricanes right now, in terms of the penalty kill, are 21 for 22 in the playoffs, and even then, they're maybe getting 2, maybe 3 penalties a game, if that. And even then, some of their penalties have been 4v4s. So they're not really giving the Capitals a whole lot of opportunities to do their thing on the power play, which basically is what Ovechkin does now. You can definitely tell he's lost a step. He's not that dynamic guy where he can just move around constantly. It's kind of like he might have a shot here and there, or he's mostly in his office when they're on the power play, kind of just standing there being stagnant. So I think the fact that for the Hurricanes not giving them the opportunities to have 4 or 5 power plays a game and giving him the opportunities and having to make him work and try to do it, get that done, plus selling out, putting their bodies in front of pucks, and they've been out hitting the Capitals, surprisingly enough, all series. So they're kind of like matching their hitting effort, but not to where it's putting themselves in a bad position. They're doing the hits in a smart way. So I think just being able to play a complete team defense and kind of neutralizing Ovi in a way where it's like, we're not going to give you the power play opportunities that you usually get. It's more of like, no, you're going to have to work very hard to get them. And luckily it's kind of worked out where they've contained them. Like even when the Capitals won in game 2, he sat out for a good majority of that third period, which was kind of insane to think because the Hurricanes were only down by 1.
Yeah.
For a good bit of that game. So it's kind of surprising how Spencer Carberry didn't really use him. So it goes to show that maybe there's something else going on too. But I think just the overall team defense and the goaltending has really found a way to neutralize the greatest natural goal scorer in the NHL. And it's been very huge for the series. And that's why it's one of the reasons why the Hurricanes are up 2-1 right now.
So what are the keys to finishing this series off? What has to happen for the Canes to win?
I think just keep doing what they're doing on the special teams. Like I said, they're now 9 for 27. They're the number 1 power play unit out of all the remaining teams. The next best is Edmonton at 30%. So I'm not saying you have to score a power play goal every night, but if you do every other, and if it's at least one, hey, you're putting yourself in a good spot. Because we all know, Gil, winning on the road and your power play has to be really good to perform, and that gives you deeper into the playoffs. Well, they've already won twice on the road. Their power play, like I said, they're 9 for 27. That's 33.3%. You would love to see that. So if they keep anywhere near 30-ish, you're looking good. And on the PK, outside of the one they gave up in game 2, they're 95.5%. The next best is Dallas at 87.1. So the Hurricanes have the number 1 power play and the number 1 power kill units out of the remaining 8 teams. That's really good. That's going to keep you going. So if you limit the penalties, then you're setting yourself a better because now it's a lot of 5-on-5, and the depth scoring has been very huge. Jack Roslovic just got his first Hurricanes playoff goal in Game 3. Same thing for Eric Robinson. That goes a long way too. So as long as the depth and the health stays strong for the Hurricanes, they're going to be looking good. And Frederik Andersen has been absolutely unstoppable. If he just keeps doing what he's doing, being that calm, cool, collected goaltender, they're going to be doing fine. And honestly, too, a guy who's been really popping off that I don't think a lot of people maybe thought he was going to do something, but they didn't see him doing this. How about Andrei Svechnikov? 6 goals for the Hurricanes. The next guy is at 3. He's already doubled the next player already. And he's the only guy right now in franchise history to have 6 goals in the team's first 8 playoff games. That's how dialed in Andrei Svechnikov is right now. And one of those games was a hat trick in Game 4 against the Devils.
All right, Zach, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they can find the podcast and where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, of course. If you want to find me, I'm One True Zach on X. On Blue Sky, I'm at the Zachary Martin. I have link trees so you can check out all my stuff, podcast-wise and article-wise with the Hockey Writers. And if you want to check out the podcast itself, it's LO_Hurricanes on X. And, of course, Locked On Hurricanes on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. And, Gil, thank you, as always, for having me on. It's always great talking to you.
Thanks, Zach. Thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank my guests. I want to thank David Morassutti of Locked On Leafs, Chris Gawlik of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, and Zach Martin of Locked On Hurricanes for joining me today. I'm Gil Martin. I host the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, and I co-host the Friday edition along with Rachel Donner. Don't forget, we're here every day, Monday through Saturday, bringing you the biggest stories from the NHL and the hockey world. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Have a great day, everybody. And thanks so much for listening to and watching the Locked On NHL podcast.